Happy to have you back, everyone. This is Tucker. Let's talk weather. I'm tracking our next big storm system, and you should be getting prepared for this. I'm giving you a detailed look at this incoming severe weather outbreak and the other impacts that come along with it. How's it going, everyone? Tucker Antico here. It's been a pretty nice week, right? Pretty quiet, reasonably warm, actually very warm. What's not to like? I will say out here in the Northeast, I've been a little cold. It's been in the 40s, and I'm a big hot weather guy. How did I even end up out here? Well, I guess I am from here, but I do love the Midwest, and I missed my years living out there. Speaking of the Midwest, that's a big target for our next storm, although this is going to impact a very broad area. We're talking about the plains, the Midwest, the Southeast, the East Coast, just a huge impact from this big storm, bringing mainly severe weather, but even the chance for some snow too. We're going to outline all of it here and get you ready for the big impacts that will come along with it right now. We're going to waste no time getting right into it now, our severe weather threat. And this actually begins today. I'm recording this on Thursday, but we're going to take a look at everything down the road especially. That said, I do want to show you the risk out here on this Thursday, and you can see it across portions of the Mississippi River Valley. And we even have this risk here in southern Texas too. This is primarily wind and hail threats, but there are low tornado risks associated with that as well. Heading into your Friday, again, we have two smaller risks. One is up there in the north central U.S., and the other one is down in southern Texas and Louisiana, mainly wind and hail, low tornado threat on the southern one. And then we get to Saturday, and this is where things become more interesting. Now, it doesn't look like much here, but what we're seeing is the start of what will be our major severe weather risk, primarily on Sunday and Monday. And I would not be surprised if this risk area does spread wider on Saturday, but we're going to now take a look at what's coming for our main event. And this will be a significant threat for many, many people. So here it is, our main event beginning on Sunday. And you can see what I was talking about, a very broad area surrounded in this risk zone. And you can see it extending from central Indiana, Ohio, down to the Gulf Coast, and as far west as Oklahoma, Texas, as far east as, well, the Appalachian Mountains. So we're looking at what will be a very broad risk here on your Sunday. And I do expect that this is going to be a hail, wind, and tornado threat. We're talking about all three concerns. I'm going to move this into Monday now, and you're going to see the threat area still very broad here, really extending from the Appalachian Mountains, where we left off on Sunday, down through the Gulf Coast, as far south as northern Florida, and as far north as southern New Jersey. And in fact, there is room for this to be even more broad, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But I also want to mention that this too looks like a triple threat: hail, wind, and tornadoes. So it is going to be a serious concern and a serious storm to watch and pay attention to. I'm going to get you to the timing now because I want you to be prepared. Now we can get an idea of where the storm is going to be and when. And we're starting here on Thursday evening. Again, I'm recording this. This is pretty much present, but we're going to move this into the future pretty quick. Just want to show you that cluster of storms is why we have that severe weather risk today. You can see some of that down in Texas as well. That's our current concern. And as we move this into tomorrow, you're going to see once again, this low pressure system begins to deepen a bit, strengthen, is a better word for that out here in the north central U.S. There's actually a front associated with it out here that's going to bring the chance for some rain and snow farther north. We'll talk about that in a moment. Also, the reason we have that low severe weather risk out here, and we still have storms ongoing here on Friday in the south central U.S. And then as we move this into Saturday, this is when things get more interesting. So what you're going to see Saturday afternoon is a secondary low pressure system really begin to develop quickly across Kansas and Nebraska. It's actually still attached to this guy out here. There's a front that'll extend all the way out into the eastern U.S., and we have a separate front that's extending to the south. So that area between those two fronts, we call it the warm sector, everything in here, that's very expansive, and that's the place where we are looking at the potential for storms over the next 3 days. That's a big area. Our severe weather threat increases here on Saturday. You'll see it mainly after dark, in fact, and then it's really going to grow into that big risk we were talking about that's going to take over a huge chunk of the U.S. out here. So you'll want to watch those two places in particular as we go from Saturday. There are your storms out there in Kansas and Missouri, and again, that could be more broad as we move forward in time. And on Sunday, you're going to begin to see storms begin to pop up here in the afternoon. There will be storms ongoing near that low pressure system throughout the morning, closer to the Wisconsin-Illinois border. But the main threat, you can see it popping up right here. And for reference, that's around 2, 3, 4 o'clock. Those storms really begin to burst. And you can see them from Illinois out towards Texas. So it's a pretty, again, broad area here, and I'll circle it for you. That is where our threat begins. It's going to continue to move to the east, that threat, as we head into the evening. And all the storms you're seeing right here, this is closer to about 10 at night. They are perhaps developing into lines of storms, but still producing severe weather as they move through the Midwest and the Southeast. So that's, again, a bigger concern with this, is that it may be partially nocturnal. As we continue into the morning on Monday, you're going to see these storms really haven't gone away, but we're going to see some rejuvenation. I do expect they'll weaken a bit at night and then pick up again once we get to the day. Here's our system right here, a front pushing those along, and plenty of warm air extending far north. Now, I don't believe we're going to see much severe weather in New England, but we could certainly see severe weather through the mid-Atlantic here on Monday. We'll just have to watch, though. It depends on how far north that warm air can get. But nonetheless, here on Monday, through the entire day, morning to evening, there is the potential for severe weather. You can see all those storms riding through the East Coast. The threat does appear greatest to me somewhere between, the Carolinas, actually. But we do have that risk for strong storms really anywhere on the East Coast. New England, while again, I'm not convinced there will be severe weather, there could at least be some strong storms, and we'll have to watch that closely. Eventually, by Tuesday morning, this system moves out. Wanted to give you a quick look under the hood, too, so you know why there's even going to be severe weather. I love doing this in my videos, at least maybe give you some information you're not going to find anywhere else. And what we're looking at right now is the jet stream. Anywhere you're seeing these pink colors, that's your wind energy. And our jet stream begins to strengthen as it moves into the central U.S. here on Saturday. You're seeing those pink colors now as we get into Sunday even begin to overtake more of the Midwest and the southeast as well. And that tells us that these storms are going to be tapping into this wind energy, and that's a key component for severe weather, especially when we're talking about a damaging wind and particularly tornado threat. But nonetheless, as we move through Sunday and into Monday, you can see the jet remains strong as it drifts towards the East Coast. And here we are on Monday afternoon, our jet really beginning to really pick up in strength, and that's going to keep that severe weather threat ongoing through at least those 2 days. Of course, we need more than just the jet. We need more than wind energy. We need some instability, which is created by heat and humidity. And I'm showing you Saturday right now. You can see that heat and humidity, those colors extending farther north. You really just need gray colors for severe storms, but once you get to that orange and red coloration, that's when you have a lot of instability, which can fuel stronger storms. But here we are Saturday night into Sunday. That's why our severe weather threat even shows up here across Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas before Sunday even begins. But as we head into Sunday, you're going to see that instability, that heat and humidity really spreads out across a very broad area, and there will be quite a bit of it too. In fact, you can see it as far north as southern Wisconsin. And that's why we have such a broad severe weather risk, because we have the wind energy and we have a lot of instability. Now, there's not a high-end amount of either, not a particularly high-end, but there is enough that there will certainly be a severe weather threat, and I do expect we're going to end up having a level 3 out of 5 risk from the Storm Prediction Center, possibly level 4, but again, that highest end risk I don't see present. I do see present, however, a very broad risk for strong to severe storms. So that's what's really catching my attention is how broad this risk is going to be. And you can see that instability, it extends pretty far north here on Monday. The greatest instability in the southeastern U.S., there won't be a lot farther north. Like I said, New England's kind of on the borderline there, but it will be a very broad area once again that could be in line for severe weather because we have that wind energy and the instability crossing over, and that will create severe storms. Now, if you're trying to figure out what to do at this point, I just want you to have a plan. Know where you're going to go if severe weather strikes and have a way to get warnings. Those are the two most important things, especially as we get deeper into severe weather season. By the way, if you haven't already subscribed, you'll want to do so also because I'm going to keep you updated ahead of all the severe weather. And I encourage you to ask your questions in the comments. I'm happy to give you a personalized forecast whenever you need one. Just drop it down below. So I wanted to walk you through the other impacts from this storm, including snow, flooding, temperature changes, and I also want to give you a look quickly here at the next big storm that is already on your radar. So I'm going to give you a look at something that you really probably aren't hearing about anywhere else yet. So let's get you to the snow first, though, and I'm just going to give it a quick overview. And as we move through the next few days here, this is Sunday and Monday, you can see there is snow showing up here in our forecast. Anywhere you're seeing those purple colors, that's 6 to 12 inches. And while they're mainly staying in southern Canada, those blue colors still indicating a good, 4 to 8. And you can see that 4 to 8 zone out here in the mountains in New England, perhaps some off the northern tier of the Great Lakes. And we're still getting snow, a lot of it in the mountains in the western U.S. here, and some of that may reach the Dakotas as well. So a little bit of snow out of this thing, and as we move this forward, you're going to see there is still some potential at snow across the northern tier of the U.S. as we get into April, but that is actually kind of a low chance. Additionally, this storm is going to produce a lot of rain, and it's really the next several days there will be a lot of rain. Anywhere you're seeing purple colors, that's at least an inch and a half of rain, closer to 2.5 on the high end. And through Monday, we're talking about rainfall that will be very heavy across a good chunk of the eastern U.S. here, where you're seeing those red colors show up out here in Texas and out here in the West Coast, especially those red and gold colors, because these storms will be produced by stuff originally coming off the West Coast. These two areas will certainly be facing the potential for flooding as we head through the next few days, so you'll want to keep that in mind. And especially as we get into growing season, that's going to become a bigger deal. So those are two areas I'm watching in particular. As far as temperatures, we've really seen a huge shift to the spring weather taking over the western U.S. Watch what happens as this storm comes in. We're seeing those temperature anomalies, those 70s and 80s, even 90s, begin to shift farther east. Now, the farther north you look, I'm not really thinking 70s, 80s, 90s, but that could be 60s, 70s, even 80s. As far north and east as New York City, we're talking about temperatures that may be in the 80s this weekend as this system comes through. And you can see on the backside of it, though, colder air coming in to replace it. So where we just where we just had all that nice spring weather, it's becoming cooler again this weekend and into the start of next week. Meanwhile, the Northeast especially will be very mild as we go through the weekend and into next week, with temperatures, like I said, largely in the 60s, 70s, and even the 80s are possible across parts of the mid-Atlantic until we get to Tuesday, and that wipes things out. But you can see that next storm coming in, that's going to bring the warmth back too. And as promised, we can get a look at our jet now, which is really going to be active again next week. It's our next storm system. You can actually see this guy right here, those red colors, those pink colors. It's a trough, so whenever you see that digging shape, that sort of U shape, that's when you know there is instability aloft and a lot of wind energy with it. As we get into Tuesday and Wednesday next week, this really becomes a bigger feature in our weather. So while we are still a week out, I want you to be thinking about, if you're in a lot of the areas we just talked about, the plains, really actually anywhere across the plains to the eastern U.S., it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday. We're going to see that jet really become very strong. I mean, that is an impressive look here as far as Wednesday goes for severe weather potential if we can get the instability to go far enough north. Here we are Thursday and even Friday. The jet stays active. We could have a certain couple days of severe weather once again. So you'll want to check back. Keep looking at our forecasts here. I'm going to keep you ahead of anything coming our way. We're going to wrap things up there, guys. Be sure to ask your questions if you haven't already. Make sure to subscribe too. And hope you enjoy your week. We got March Madness. We got the college hockey tournament going on. We have baseball season, which just started. I'll be watching weather across the ballparks. And if you have any questions, please, like I said, ask them in the comments. I'll be sure to keep you updated on these storms ahead, and I'll see you next time.